Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in politics?
Okay, so I studied, I grew up in Brisbane. I studied at Queensland University, a bachelor degree in mathematics. Got first class honours and went to Cambridge and did a PhD in mathematics. Then I worked in Cambridge and then in Israel and then came back to Brisbane. So that's my background, and I work in software as a software developer. And why did I get into politics? Uh, I was simply getting very upset with the state of play with Australian politics. In particular, the fact that neither the federal government or the opposition seemed particularly interested in social justice issues or in environmental issues. And just one day I got too fed up and decided I better do something about it.
Just to talk about Ryan a little bit, what are the main issues do you think affecting the electorate?
Well, I think the biggest issue for sure in Ryan is public transport, and this has implications in the inner suburbs, as well as the outer west and as well as the centenary suburbs. And in the outer west, there's a lot of traffic feeding in just through Moggle Road, which is crazy. And in the centenary suburbs, you've got everything coming over the bridge in the morning, and that's equally crazy. And in the inner suburbs, you have issues with getting to the university. And this is particularly important for students because housing affordability in St. Lucia is quite poor because it's now very expensive real estate. So improved public transport into the university expands students and student population's possibility to get better rents, basically, and still access university. So I think public transport is probably the biggest issue facing the whole of Ryan.
Do you think particular members or particular parts of the electorate want more public transport, or do you think they're comfortable in their own vehicles?
No, I think most people are particularly uncomfortable, and a lot of people I talk to on the streets, I mean, as soon as I say public transport, they just nod and agree because even though there's a very high proportion of people using the cars, it's more because there's no access to public transport. And we can see the buses are quite infrequent. And in the morning at rush time, and sometimes they're even full. So I don't think it's people not wanting to use it. I think it's they don't have the opportunity to use it. I think the participation rate in public transport in Brisbane is minute compared to almost any other city in the world. And as it gets bigger, and especially as Ryan expands and the population expands in the outer west, it's going to become even more unfeasible unless we do something about the public transport situation.
Yeah. I recently spoke to Ross Daniels and we spoke a little bit about the Goodna bypass being quite a big election issue in Ryan. And many politicians and many members of the electorate have expressed their dissatisfaction with the project. What's your understanding of the situation?
Okay, well, I mean, the Greens have been opposed to the Goodna bypass for a long time. And, I mean, you've probably heard this already, but it's a very expensive project, and it's a project that is more or less unnecessary if the state government's proposals for upgrades to the Ipswich Highway were taken on. And so there's a huge waste of money. It's costing an extra $1.5–2 billion on top of the upgrade to the Ipswich Highway. So firstly, we're wasting a huge amount of money on it. And secondly, it's destroying a really unique part of Brisbane. I mean, it's a fantastic part of Brisbane out there. It's quiet, you've got the river, there's koala habitats. I mean, it's just an outrage, really. And I'm even more upset because this is billions of dollars wasted where we need public transport, where we need a high school out there. And what do we get? We get a freight road through it instead, which doesn't even stop to let people on and off in Ryan. So people are, justifiably upset about the bypass.
As you know, Ryan is and has been pretty safe Liberal territory for quite some time. Do you expect that with the recent media attention on climate change and more information in the mainstream media, that more constituents in the area will be demanding better policies on these issues and turning to the Labor and Greens?
I'm not sure. Climate change was a very popular subject at the beginning of the year, but it's sort of been talked out, and both the other parties have really come to the decision that clean coal is the way forward. I find this a very disappointing resolution, and I don't know how much people are interested specifically in climate change because there's a lot of talk on a lot of other issues. I would hope that people would take it seriously and really put their votes towards good policies on it. But you can never tell until the day if that's how people have decided to vote.
Are there any other small local issues that, you know, aren't in the media that you think should be covered?
Well, I mean, I guess there's an issue about schooling, and as I mentioned before, the outer west in Ryan, the area between Kenmore and Ipswich, it's going through a lot of population growth, and they even calling it the growth corridor. And one of the issues which I've been interested in, Jeff Monk, who ran in Muggle at the recent state election, is also interested, is a lack of community infrastructure there. And in particular, there is a desperate need for a new high school, public high school out there, because currently the catchment of Kenmore High School goes up to Anstead, to Fig Tree Pocket, I mean, out to Bilbarry almost. It's crazy, and they're at capacity. So an issue which has attracted some media, and I'd hope that it would keep on attracting more attention, is the need for a new public high school out there. Something which isn't in the media much, which I think is very important, is housing affordability for students.
Yeah, okay.
Because I mentioned earlier that St. Lucia is now prime real estate, and rents are going up there like crazy. And students have a lot of financial burden already. And I think something we really need to address soon is how to make it possible to study without having 2 part-time jobs and turning up to lectures tired, because it's not a great educational outcome if we stress all the students beyond their capacity.